Hello, people. Um, Vincent hasn't joined me yet. Maybe I should have made sure he was actually there. I guess I'll just have to yak for a bit. And maybe try and get his attention and let him know that I've started. It would be a bit sad if I were stood up and he's now gone shopping or something. Maybe he's just gone to the loo or something. So, how have you all been? Are you having a nice Valentine's Day? How dare me what? Well, I'm having a very nice Valentine's Day evening being stood up by Vincent. I can imagine what he's going to be talking about. He'll be wanting to talk about secular Quranism and the no-hide laws and Judaism. And, of course, Chabad. And maybe homo supremacism. I'm not sure what that is. Something about breeders being at the service of homosexuals, perhaps? From what I can remember of Vincent's plan, it was something that was very high maintenance about gathering women into a harem and allowing them to be impregnated by gay men who want babies, and then being left on their own and having the gay men every now and then visiting their offspring, something like that, with the use of artificial wombs if the women aren't going to do it properly or allow it to happen at all. Um, and of course, that would be supported by MGTOWs who don't want to go through the inconvenience of having to live with one of us or woo one of us or marry one of us or pay for us. But then who's going to look after the kid? Yes, Vince is an interesting person. He has energy and ideas. And the elderly have to be grateful for the energy of the young. And perhaps it will be through secular Quranism that the generations are united in the West again. And in the meantime, I have to waffle on, not very sure if. Oh my god. Has he gone? The green light has gone. You know what? I might end the stream because obviously I shouldn't have started without him. I just assumed that he would be around, and now he's gone out or something. You know, Maria, I'm not really into plants. The worst thing you could get for me is a plant or flowers. And I would say, well, I wish you'd spent the money you spent on flowers on something else that I would have liked. And I used to really hate it when people would turn up at your dinner party and they bring flowers. It's like, just bring wine. Don't bother with the flowers because, you know, there was a time when they would do that and I didn't have enough vases for the flowers. And I think, just bring wine. So, with 6 people watching now, I guess I'm not going to have much of a stream, not even if you wanted to ask me questions. I've been stood up by Vincent, I'm such a sad woman. So who's in the stream? How many people exactly are in the stream? Only 2 people. But 8 people watching now, so maybe that's not quite right. Look, if you want a stream to carry on, you need to say something to me so I can respond to it. I don't mind answering your questions, discussing a topic. Okay, I'll tell you what happened, Andrew. I said, is it time-stamped? Well, actually, it wasn't that long ago that we kind of agreed to stream, and then I posted the link, and then I went live, thinking he would still be around, but yeah, I guess there was an interval when I left the room to go to the kitchen to make myself a cup of tea, and Vincent might have thought, well, it's time for me to go shopping. It's time for me to check out the bars of New York. Or something. Alright then, I better... I better go, I'm sorry about this. I'll have a word with Vincent to make him feel bad for standing me up on St. Valentine's Day all by myself. How do I do what? Don't shop? Well, sometimes you need to go and get milk and bread and things like that, right? And where's Jen? She's not here. Is she avoiding me? Well, I don't mind talking if you can kind of keep the conversation going. Why are you by yourself, Maria? What time is it with you? It is 7:30. And I guess it's 5 hours behind in where Vincent is. So, Are you any closer to embracing secular Quranism as your preferred legal system, people? So, citizen reporter, she asked me a question on Facebook, and it's quite amusing, really. So, I was drawing her attention to the National Conservatism Conference in Rome being held by Yoram Hazoni, and I just love it. It's like National Conservatism. It's practically National Socialism. But perhaps it was a deliberate joke. No, I don't know where Vincent is. He's actually not. I don't think he's even. Okay, this is a conversation. Let me know when you're ready for our stream, Vincent. And he says, I can now. And I. Oh, great. He's coming. He's coming. I can play the interval music, I guess. I don't use it often enough. Intermission. Okay, Vincent is still not here. But he's coming soon. Where is the link? He said without scrolling up.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, how long were you broadcasting before I came on?
18 minutes. Ha ha ha.
Oh, I didn't
I
see
didn't
that. I
see
was
that.
writing something.
Um,
Um,
no,
yeah,
no,
so
that's okay. That's okay. I don't mind. But,
today's actually a very special day for me
it's,
because, yes, here, there's something that I wrote, I wrote this years ago, but I repost it every, Valentine's Day. And, oh, let me find it.
is it a love poem?
No, it's not a love poem. It's a poem about my god Kamadeva, which we have spoken about on here before. So, the thing is, so in India, I have you seen, did you just see in Indonesia they banned Valentine's Day or whatever? Did you see that?
Um, I. I know some countries are so disgusted by it, they do ban it, yeah. But I don't know. I didn't know it was Indonesia.
So I think is somebody in the uh, chat saying there's an echo? I don't know.
There was for a
Mary.
bit and then it went away, so I think
Okay.
you're okay now.
Okay, so I posted it in the chat and I'll just post it in the hangout to you. Um Thing is that right, so a lot of these countries, usually Muslim countries, don't want Valentine's Day inside of their nation, but within India, a lot of Hindus don't want it there either because they see it as an encroachment of the West and they see it as a holiday of lust and they're all against it and stuff like that. So going against it causes a lot of problems because it makes the Hindus look fundamentalist and uh, intolerant and kind of backward. So, what I actually recommended was this actually stems from a larger problem in that back in ancient times, Hindus used to worship Kamadeva around this time, who is the god of love and sex, the god of lust. And they replaced it with Saraswati Puja because they obviously became very prude and didn't want anyone knowing that they worshiped the god of lust at all.
Sorry,
Um,
they replaced him with whom? I think.
Saraswati.
Oh,
Saraswati. They made Saraswati Puja,
okay.
who
Puja.
is the
What does
goddess of
puja
knowledge.
mean?
What?
You said Saraswati something. Puja. Puja?
Puja's like a ritual.
Okay.
A puja is like a ritual. So they switched Kama Puja with Saraswati Puja. And so what I'm trying to get them to do, I'm saying just bring, instead of fighting against Valentine's Day, just make it Kama Puja again and co-opt it for Hinduism. Um, instead of having all this kind of like violent uh
I see. I think a lot of people resent St. Valentine's Day because it's, their wife saying, oh, well, you're going to, you have to buy me something, you have to take me out to dinner, and basically don't want to do that sort of thing. It's like, well, I've just given you stuff at Christmas and New Year, you know, or Diwali, I suppose, for them.
Well, the thing is that while Muslims don't have anything to replace it with, like the thing is that what Christians did is they replaced pagan holidays with their Christian holidays, right? So Valentine's Day replaced Lupercalia or whatever it was called, the Roman festival originally of love or lovemaking, and they Christianized it, they co-opted it, they westernized it. And so what I'm suggesting is that you just do that very thing in reverse, that Hindus do that very thing in reverse, but they already have a festival to replace it with. You don't have to make up a new festival to Hinduize.
Ah,
um
when is it though? What time of year is it? This Saraswati or Kamadeva thing.
it's around this time of year.
Oh, it's still okay.
Yeah,
That's
no, it takes
convenient.
place. It takes place around this time of year. So,
What does the ritual consist of?
it's just like celebration. I mean, I'm sure that they do some sort of idol worship or something like that, and they offer different kinds of uh, offerings, whether it's flowers or food or whatever.
Ah, yeah, I suppose people. I bet if you're Hindu, it's like they've got so many festivals already. They don't want to spend even more time having to celebrate Western festivals too. That it, means spending more money.
Well, no, it's more that they don't want the encroachment of Westernization into India, and they see it as a threat to Hinduism. Um, but I'm just saying if they were smart, they would just resurrect their own Valentine's Day once again, and they would say, well, instead of celebrating Valentine's Day, celebrate Kama Puja, just establish it on February 14th, and then you have
An
uh
instant Hindu love festival.
yes, yes, which is divinized, and actually Kamadeva is it's not just about love and love making and finding a partner. I mean, Kamadeva's stories are he's the god of love and lust, but I mean he's still a god that has an important place inside the pantheon, and his stories are deep and meaningful. It's not just, let's fall in love.
Well, I suppose people just want the fun bit, which is the lust bit and the satisfaction of lust bit, but don't want the the courtship, the whatever, and the maintenance of the relationship. Do you find it? How long have you been married, Vincent?
Like 6 or 7 years now.
What do you and your husband have any special plans for today?
No, we actually met today. This was the day that we met, but our anniversary is on the 16th. So we're gonna do something on the 16th.
Ah, what do you plan to do?
Um,
Do you
I'll
think?
probably just go to dinner or something like that.
Ah, yes, it's probably a better time to go and have dinner on an evening that isn't Valentine's Day, because if you get bad service, and you probably will because it'll be so crowded, you don't want to acknowledge that it is bad service. You don't want to complain and spoil the mood. So I
Right.
think restaurants get away with bad service more on that particular day and on Mother's Day, and they're gonna think they can get away with it because we're supposed to be showing that we're having a wonderful romantic time.
Well, I mean, I feel as though, unfortunately, this westernization of the holiday has made it very cynical. It wasn't as cynical when it was back in Roman times. It must have had more meaning, more significance, because, the stories that went along with it had more meaning and significance. But
So Valentine's Day was not a Roman invention. Uh,
no, it wasn't. It was a Catholic invention.
oh, I thought it was actually a recent one, not longer than 100. Sorry, 100 years old, maybe.
Well, the Cupid part came from the Catholics. Wait,
Really?
I wrote about that inside the article. Let me just find it again. Um, where was it that I wrote about that?
It's such a long article, Vince.
What?
It's quite a long article. It's got some pretty pictures in it, but there's a lot of words in it. Were you very
Okay,
pleased to be
so
mentioned on Adam Green the other
yes,
day?
it did get mentioned on Adam Green.
Was that the
Yes.
first time?
Not the first time my website was mentioned, but me by name. Yes. So the full name of Valentine's Day is Saint Valentine's Day. The holiday commemorates the death of a Catholic priest named Valentine, who was executed by Claudius II rather than renounce his faith. He was supposedly executed on February 14th, 270 AD. His martyr date was later used to replace a pagan holiday which was celebrated on the same day, one in which pagan boys would write the names of girls in honor of the goddess of Februata Juno. While the original meaning of the holiday seems to have been transmitted to the present writing love letters, the Catholic name of the holiday stuck. The original festival, which included the worship of the goddess Februata Juno, was called Lupercalia, which took place annually between February 13th to February 15th. The festival had several connotations, one of them being a festival to induce fertility. This is why the festival had several uh, this is why modern St. Valentine's Day is associated with love and lovemaking. So, ironically, Valentine's Day's most iconic figure, Cupid, seems to have his basis in Catholic origins and was not part of the original festival. It would appear that Cupid made his entrance into the festival because the martyred priest Saint Valentine wore a ring which imaged Cupid. So that's the origin of Saint Valentine's Day. It was a Catholic replacement.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia entry, and so it's, I guess, frowned on in Malaysia.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Well,
that's
but I
frowned on
think
in
it's
most.
sort of, I think anyone, who doesn't have somebody to celebrate it with would possibly want to not have it celebrated because it would emphasize their partnerlessness, you know. So there would be people like that. And of course, if you were a shop or a restaurant, you would insist on it being, on this noble, lovely, romantic tradition being continued.
Right.
I mean, I think the reasons tend mostly to be commercial because, people kind of make some sort of connection between, well, if I spend lots of money, maybe I'll find true love, that kind of thing. So, um, yeah, so shops would and restaurants would benefit from that. But it's definitely banned in Saudi Arabia. It banned the sale of all Valentine's Day's items, telling shop workers to remove any red items. That's going quite far. So, and this ban created a black market for roses and wrapping paper. In 2012, the religious police arrested more than 140 Muslims for celebrating the holiday and confiscated all red roses from flower shops. Muslims are not allowed to celebrate the holiday, and non Muslims can celebrate only behind closed doors.
Right. And so, but the Hindus have the problem for a different reason. It's not so much it's different than the Muslim uh concern, or the concern that Muslims have.
I guess it's cultural displacement of, yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I suppose, if you want to be romantic, you can be romantic at any time. So I guess it wouldn't exactly harm anyone if it were banned. It's not like the government would stop you from getting romantic. You can always send a love letter or gifts or whatever. Hello? It's gone quiet. Has Vince dropped out? No, he's still there, but I can't hear him. Well, I don't know. I guess that's going to be the end of our Valentine's Day stream.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're back. Good. Okay. What do you
Yeah.
want to talk about now?
Um, well, yeah, I mean, I'm just the Catholics co-opted the Festival of Love from the pagans. So I'm just saying that Hindus just so happen to have their own Festival of Love around the same time. So just co-opt it back, and instead of fighting with Valentine's Day, do what the Catholics did with all of their holidays. Just place them over the Catholic holidays and co-opt them back. But I don't know if the Hindus are clever enough for that, to be honest with you.
There probably isn't the political will to, I guess
Well,
the
they have the political will to go into the streets and fight with people.
that's more fun though, isn't it? But of course,
Yeah.
I think that there will be some vested interest in Indian shops and restaurants, particularly the posh ones, I suppose. The luxury ones.
Yeah, no, it's big in India, but the thing is just these guys go around in saffron robes, and I think some of them get violent, and they're just running around like burning signs of Valentine's Day, and it makes them look silly. I think that they should learn from the Catholics.
Learn from the Catholics in appropriating something.
Yes, appropriating something, yes.
I think really, if they really are going around getting violent, it's because they hate the West. They hate everything Western and consumerist, and this St. Valentine's Day represents, another kind of, the boot of the West stamping on their face of forcing men to spend. Of course, men want women and they have to spend money on women, and now they have to do it in this particular way because this is what women now expect. Maybe that's.
Well, but wait, I mean, it was a lot different during the pagan times from, the holiday that they co-opted. I mean, it wasn't just about Valentine's Day is what is commercialized. Homophobia would not be commercialized like that.
I guess it would always be commercialized. I mean, just because people make so much stuff and sell it on the day or for that day, but perhaps in the olden days, I guess it was commercialized to the extent that it was commercialized for people who made cards, right? And I guess before people thought to make cards, they would there would be materials. I suppose you do your own. You make your own card, which would have been nicer. I would have
Well, I guess
thought.
all festivals are commercialized. Even the Hajj is commercialized. I mean, going to Mecca is commercialized. I mean, there's tons of people that make money off of that. I mean, any religious holiday is going to have a commercial aspect to it.
Yeah, but I suppose it's the extent to which last year nobody made any hearts, and then this year there are all these hearts, and like, but just sort of more and more stuff to buy that you're supposed to buy, and then maybe until you're expected to buy it, and I suppose that is it being commercialized. But yeah, I mean, what do people mean? I guess that they think that they're spending too much money at Christmas. Maybe that's just a complaint, or the children are expecting too much, in the way of Christmas presents, or potential spouses are expecting too much from a man. Why can't he just? I don't know. I mean, I suppose that they see that there are cheaper ways of doing it, without Valentine's Day.
Cheaper days of doing what, excuse me?
Cheaper ways of getting the girl, finding a woman to marry.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, but also the holiday makes an excuse in that it makes it easier that day. It's expected to give somebody a love letter. So, it kind of maybe breaks the ice for the boy to do that. I mean, that's why the pagans did it. I mean, that's was one of the reasons. It was spring. You wanted people to mate. You wanted boys and girls to get together. So you made a holiday where they would exchange letters to one another.
So, have you ever received any Valentine's Day cards that were that whose sender was not known to you?
No, no, no. I've never had that before.
It's not something men do to each other.
I've never gotten a gay Valentine's Day. I know there's gay Valentine's Day at clubs and stuff like that, but I've never received a Valentine's Day card from anyone. No. Not, I mean, we did it in grade school where we used to have to switch, trade Valentine's Day cards, but I mean, that's doesn't count.
No, it was kind of enforced, was it? I mean, how did they make you do it? Did they force you to choose a particular person to exchange Valentine's Day cards with, or did you just sort of all put it in a mix and mix it up? And
I can't remember what we did. I remember doing it, but I was like in second grade, so I can't really remember what I did.
how old are you when you're in second? I mean, how old is a second grader?
7,
Seven.
6,
Okay.
7.
Okay. But that's just what class was it? Art class?
No, it was just general class. It was just, we were learning about Valentine's Day. I mean, you celebrate all the other holidays in class, you celebrate, or at least they used to. Thank God they're starting to phase that out in this country. I mean, they shouldn't be celebrating Christmas or Halloween or Easter or a Valentine's Day or any of these holidays inside schools.
It's a
It's
waste of
just
time. They should be learning maths or history or something. I'm just shocked that I wonder how many hours are spent, you know, what, with scissors and glue and coloured paper and stuff. I mean, a lot of schooling seems to be just sort of, drawing art. And you think, oh, well, these children maybe they might need to become engineers and doctors and stuff like that, and they're being told to cook and, you know, play with art.
right.
I don't know. I mean, just to occupy their time, I suppose. I mean, why do they do that? And of course, it's a very low skill thing. Your teacher, you just help a kid with cutting out of little bits so he can stick it on and colour it and stuff. It's, well, I don't know, just a cheap way of looking after children. Well, I don't know. I guess I'm just old enough to think, well, that's a waste of time, isn't it? Aren't you supposed to be teaching my kid something that it couldn't do otherwise at home?
Right.
Would you like to talk about um, no hide laws now, or is there anything
Well,
else?
I just put up I did just put up a blog about that. I'm trying to do this, like I'm very straightforward and I just give all the facts and I feel like people don't respond to that. I tried making this blog, and let me show it to you, and I'll post it. I tried making this blog in a manner in which I never write and I never present, but I see other people presenting and writing in this manner. And like, if I were to come across this, I wouldn't even look at it because it doesn't seem very well researched, and it's just a bunch of pictures and exclamation points and all this other kind of stuff. But I wrote it. I wrote it for I'm trying to find my audience. What is this? I'm trying to find, like, my audience, and I don't know. Here, I'm posting it in the chat now. I gave very little detail. I really didn't put all the information out for them. I've written very detailed articles on this before, and all I get is silence. So now I'm trying to do something um, that is a little bit more emotional. And I've been making these memes and posting these memes, and they're getting some traction. People seem to understand it when it's very shallow. When you I don't like shallow information because I feel like something could be hidden, or I'm not getting the full story, or the person doesn't do a very good job at like explaining everything or making their point, or all the nookies and getting into all the nooks and crannies and cracks.
Well, I suppose it's kind of wall of text thing for me. That's a lot of words. When I don't know, maybe you could just reduce it into 3 paragraphs.
Well, I put just lots of pictures and really short paragraphs. And I didn't give like all that much information or go into
Oh,
detail.
come on! I'm still scrolling. I'm scrolling until my finger is tired. Come
Yeah, but you
on,
see,
there's
I didn't
just
put a
too
lot
many
of
words.
words.
Nobody's going to read all that.
I didn't put a lot of words.
Oh, come on. There is a lot of scrolling from,
I know, but it's
beginning.
all pictures.
But there's still a lot of words. And
No.
really, you could have just said, um, Hindus upset at being made to celebrate St. Valentine's Day when they already.
Oh, you're talking about my Valentine's Day article.
Yeah, right. You're talking about something else now. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you're talking. Yeah, no, that's a long article. It is a long article.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. I'm glad you agree. I don't know what article you're talking about now.
The other one I sent to you. Hold on.
Have you sent it? I did have a look in the Hangout. I can't see anything in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I sent it to you in the Hangout.
Oh, in the thing. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
there's.
I tried to make it I hate it. I absolutely hate that thing that I just made there. Like if I read that I would be just like what the fuck is this shit? But
Do you sometimes read my blog?
I do read your blog.
Do you have any comments to make on its
Um
presentation?
and yeah, the presentation is like short, sweet. I also noticed that you write in such a way where you assume that I noticed that most people write where they assume everyone knows all this back detail. Like, okay, whenever I go to these Noahide websites, they just seem to assume that you know so much because they just like will make these statements that you would have had to read other stuff in order to pick it up and understand what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, to just come out and say, well, oh, Christianity's idolatrous. Well, no, the average person, when they see no idolatry, they don't assume that Christianity is idolatrous. They don't know that under Jewish law, Christianity is idolatrous. So, you know what I mean? Like, I go in and I explain all this and I show all the research and everything like that. And but most people don't do that, but most people get more attention than I do.
Well, I think you know, I've tried explaining idolatry. It's just that people don't care. It's like, yeah, so what? They break most of the commandments anyway, so they just don't see a problem with idolatry. And I think, it's really something that Jews want to avoid more than anyone else because they know that idolatry would take away their identity. And so they don't do it in order to, perpetuate the existence of the tribe. I mean, what would have happened if Moses had condoned the worship of the golden calf? Then they would all go and worship the golden calf and assimilate in order to and have sex with the local non-Jewish women, and that would be the end of them. They would no longer exist now. So that's a reason for them anyway, even though we don't care.
Hmm.
But maybe lacking an identity or lacking an attractive identity is very damaging to the self-esteem of people. Which is why maybe that's why you're Hindu. That's why Jen is Hindu. Maybe that's why Gandalf is in the process of creating a new religion.
Well, idolatry allows you to relate to the religion in a way that speaks to you personally. I mean, that's the point of polytheism, that there's a god that fits your personality and that you can follow, and that God shows you, the way through life. I mean, with monotheism, I don't relate to the monotheistic Abrahamic God at
Well, it's a,
all.
it's a
And
cold kind of thing. I mean, it's like people like things. They want to look at them. They want to hold them, and there's something more.
well, no,
I
but
can understand the materialistic desire to.
but I mean, you don't necessarily need in the Vedas. There's no idols. There is no idolatry in the Vedas. I mean, it's just polytheism, and you don't see the gods, but they have personalities. I mean, the thing is that when you have just one god, it's not going to speak to everybody's heart because it's a certain personality type, and it's only one. And
Sorry, what personality type? I don't understand your objection, really.
well, the Abrahamic God is a personality type. He's jealous. Um,
Well, he has rules and he wants you to follow them, and if you believe in him, then you would want to follow his rules, or you would try to see the point of his rules. So, obviously, if you say you're going to worship this god, you're going to worship this god and you can't worship any other gods. So, but if you want to be a polytheist and worship all these other gods, then you will kind of lose status because the whole idea of a one god, the one god idea is that, well, I'm the most powerful god, so you got to worship me because I'm the only one around. The others are just they're just the figments of the imagination of fanciful people. And
but the thing is that it like okay, like I relate to Kamadeva in that. So in Hinduism gives me the chance to relate to a certain god in a way that speaks to my personality. So I know to get through this life, I should kind of behave like Kamadeva in that he's on the side of good, but he kind of breaks the rules. He's very mischievous. Um, he uses lust to bring people to God. Um, he can distract you with your lust but lead you in the right direction, whereas with most gods that would be counterintuitive. Most gods wouldn't do that. They would say you should abandon lust and you should have nothing to do with it. He is the god that actually uses lust to bring you towards higher principles, which is not common, which is scandalous, but he still has his place. Okay, there he still exists. And so that is a god. Without him, I don't know how far I would be led on a path to godliness because none of the other gods would speak to me.
well, but you're worshipping the equivalent of Cupid, and Cupid is, well, he's irresponsible, isn't he? He goes around shooting arrows into people to make them fall in love with the wrong person and causing them pain.
Or the right person, or the right person.
Yeah, but this is just a fancy. It's not real. I mean, it's just the story was made up about Cupid because people do seem to fall in love with unsuitable people, and maybe Okay, so the whole idea. Okay, we can talk about love in this way. We can talk about how it's an emotion and it can drive out our reason. And then after it's put us through the mangle, it departs, and we wonder what it was all about, why we ever fell in love with that person, blah blah blah. But it's too late. So maybe we shouldn't worship romantic love in that way, because it just creates this expectation of romantic love, and we're going to be disappointed because it doesn't last. And the whole idea of our capacity to feel certain emotions and heightened states of physical arousal is in order to make us have sex and have offspring. But obviously, it's only safe to do it in the context of a loving relationship. And there's no point having loving relationships, if you're not going to use that energy that is created by having a relationship into bringing up the next generation. I'm just assuming that's the rationale behind it. I'm not saying it can't be fun to have sex with people not your spouse, but I'm saying, well, that was the real reason for marriage. It is to say, yeah, sex can be fun, but only married people can have it.
Can you hold one sec? I just gotta take a phone call. Just hold one second.
Sure, I'll just read the chat. Oh, it's not a protest of the Jews. I mean, the point is that, if these are the rules for Jews and Gentile, and, it would be the case, I think there was once upon a time, most people completely understood what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, of course, marriage is eugenic. If we screwed around like we would, without getting married, our society would descend into chaos because the next generation would be wanted. Mothers would regard their offspring as the product of the unwanted byproduct of fornication, and not value their offspring, but they would if they were married. And so it's all about gearing our emotions towards a particular enterprise, the enterprise of rearing the next generation. And of course, people now completely don't get the point of it and don't care about it. And of course, homosexuality is cheating. It's going around the rules. You're not supposed to have sex with, because the whole idea. Okay, well, there was this rule that we're not supposed to have sex with members of the opposite sex, but and therefore the sexes are segregated, and obviously you're going to cheat if you think, well, I don't have to have sex with somebody who is the opposite sex. I can have sex with a member of my own sex and get round these inconvenient rules of being forced to have children and looking after them or paying for them. So, obviously, they would have to have, they would have to create a set of rules that would, criminalize those who have sex with members of their own sex. So there you go. That completely explains, all these laws against sodomy and extramarital sex. To stop people from cheating, to stop people from thinking, no, I don't really want to have children, or pay for them, or look after them. I just want to have sex. And it's to, punish these people, really. I think I've made my point. I can talk for a bit if anybody wants to ask me a question while Vincent finishes his call.
All right, I'm back.
Oh, good. Carry on. I was
What
just
were we talking
explaining to
about?
people. What did you say? I was just explaining to people why there are rules against extramarital extramarital sex, because obviously once we learn the pleasures of having extramarital sex, well, I mean, people would just sort of not want to have married procreative sex, would they? They would regard. Um,
Well, okay, but in the ancient time they had fertility cults. See, this is the thing. Paganism took care of that in that there was extramarital sex, but then they actually divinized motherhood. So motherhood actually became a religious institution within the society that was respected. So you had extramarital sex, but also, you know, it was sacred. Motherhood was sacred, and so you had fertility cults that would keep the population up.
um, I guess because some people might not be fertile, and it would be a sense of shame, and that they can't have children. So I guess there would be invented all these cults that say, well, pray to this fertility god, and then you may yet have children, that kind of
No,
thing.
I mean, no, no, no. I mean, just fertility on its own, motherhood was divinized. Motherhood, and it wasn't just for sterile people, it was for women who could breed as well. Um,
Well, yeah, I guess motherhood should be appreciated because, if you don't bring up your kid properly, then it's going to be a drain on society. And women are less likely to bring up their children properly if they're single mothers. So, that just explains all the rules that you find so tedious that get in the way of you having love fun, but which are actually necessary to, maintain standards.
well, there's a difference between, I mean, there's a difference between maintaining certain standards and maintaining the birth rate. You can maintain the birth rate w within paganism, and they did it. It wasn't able to, at that point in time, uh, fend itself from Abrahamism, but like we were talking about it on the on Aaron Amahud's show that Abrahamism has now immunized paganism. Paganism is returning with a vengeance, and it's immunized against Abrahamism in that it can define it, it knows what it is. See, in the past, they were confused because they just thought, well, the Abrahamic God is just another God, and it's not really a big deal, and this is going to pass like all the other gods pass, or we're going to ban it like we do some of the more violent gods, like they would in Rome. Um, but now we know what it is, and we can defend ourselves against it. I mean, we have an immune reaction against Abrahamism, and the Abrahamic religions are having a hard time fighting against secular governments these days. The secular governments are in control, and
Because they're liberal and everybody's hooked on extramarital sex. Yeah, I totally get it. But it's, the lowering of standards. I mean, it's quite popular simply because, yeah, people kind of like the idea that they can have sex outside marriage. And, and every year there seems to be, a wider category of people we can have sex with that won't cause us, to be considered bad people. But is that a good thing? I mean, obviously the majority are very easily led astray, and perhaps the government is trying to distract us by offering us more varieties of extramarital sex to take our minds off the loss of our political freedoms.
well, the thing is that it's not divinized anymore. In that now
What isn't
the
divinized?
sex. It's not divinized in that it used to be that it was part of a religious institution, and so it actually had status and it had purpose, and it was channeled for certain reasons, even though it was pleasurable. The
Oh,
when Abrahamism came in, they said, well, any sex outside of marriage is dirty, it's low, it's lustful. And so when now that we're seeing this resurging semi pseudo paganism, it hasn't divinized sex. It just views it the opposite of what the Abrahamics, or they view it in the way the Abrahamics want them to view it, and that, well, it's meaningless and it's just fun, and who cares, and it doesn't have any deeper meaning. They just don't want us to have fun. But that wasn't the pagan view of sex at all.
Well, I mean, we don't really know what most people thought. I mean, maybe they just, they saw. A lot of people just don't do stuff because they don't want to be punished. Most people are not deep thinkers. And they probably would do it, if they could get away with it. And quite often people, did do all kinds of things that they thought they could get away with that wasn't good for, their victim or society in general. And but the thing is, if you want to keep your society, your nation, your empire, your civilization going, you kind of need to keep producing the next generation, and not in any casual way, but you need to make sure that people choose their spouse carefully so that they're more likely to have enduring marriages during which they would bring up children and parent them properly. And that will continue your civilization, and failure to do what I've just described will mean the decline and fall of your civilization. It really was as
No, but
simple as
these
that.
pagan civilizations were long lasting. I mean, these fertility cult pagan civilizations were very long lasting. They weren't able at that time, in that moment, to defend
Which
themselves
which
against.
ones though? They're not no longer existing. We know we can think of Cupid, all right. Okay, so that came from uh, the, the the Greek pantheon, right? So,
Yeah.
well, the ancient Greeks are no more. The ancient Romans who acquired their pantheon, they're no more. But, okay, the interesting thing, if you're talking about these pagan gods, would be um, okay, I'm thinking of the Romans invading Britain, who were also pagan, and they would be worshipping, I don't know, the gods of the trees, the I don't know, birds, or whatever. They'd be, or stone, or forest, or whatever. So, and the Roman pantheon was rather more sophisticated because they would be worshipping, the goddess of love, the uh, Apollo, the goddess of the arts, and all those different gods. And I suppose they would concentrate the mind, particularly if they are gods of abstract ideas, such as Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, the and I think Saturn was the god of wealth, and of course, the Romans would worship Mars as the god of war, um, and so on and so forth. But at least their gods were of abstract ideas. And then, of course, the next level up would be the god of all abstract ideas, and that would be the Abrahamic God. So it wouldn't just be, ooh, well, he created the earth in 7 days, blah, blah, blah. It would be, yeah, he created the earth and the sun and the moon and the galaxy, and all ideas come from him. Which is why, in the Old Testament,
Well,
it
but
says that God also created evil.
the pagan gods represent a lot more ideas than what the Abrahamic God can represent. The Abrahamic God is one God with one book that doesn't um, promote the vast the vastness of human experience. It can't describe the vastness of human experience. It can't explain the vastness of human experience.
What would you mean? I mean, have you asked a question and found that there to be no answer? I think a lot of these Judaic ideas are really very, very, what's the word? Useful. I'll say useful. All right. So even the way that they conceive of God is kind of, to protect themselves against people, making claims against God. So, okay, the Jewish view is that God created the universe and now exists outside it as pure spirit. So nobody. So just to stop people from going around saying, "Oh, I just saw God the other day, and He was saying to me, blah 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 blah." It's like, and then and He is this stone, and let's go worship it, and I'm the high priest. So and from a very I guess supremacist idea, because though because there's nothing, no God more powerful that you can think of other than the Abrahamic God. You can't think of a God that doesn't have that has okay. In order to be the most powerful, you have to be the only one, because obviously you wouldn't entertain rivals, and to be in that supreme position, you have to be omnipotent, and if you're omnipotent, then you would make sure that you were omniscient and obviously eternal. And obviously, finally, the fifth requirement, you would have to be perfectly moral. It's much easier to be a God who can do anything but does bad things. But the extra final thing to be this perfect God is to be the God that is perfectly moral. And that is the Abrahamic God. Of course, people will say, "Oh well, he's not moral. He allows this, that, and the other to happen. How could he? I hate him. I won't believe him," and take that kind of attitude. But even within this system of belief, the idea is that, well, you may suffer in this life, but that is, it's not what you suffer, but how you behave in the face of suffering. Do you just go with the flow and accept any bribe, or respond to any threat by retreating, or do you stand up for your principles? And principles can be found in scripture, i.e. the Ten Commandments, the all the commandments and prohibitions of the Quran, and that's it. You have a blueprint for the advancement of human civilization. You have people following laws, obeying rules, and making life more organized. I mean, the extra mile is really scripture. And there's only, you have the New Testament, and it's just written by people. Hindu scripture is written by people. Buddhist scripture, I mean, it's not even written by the Buddha himself. It's just all, people saying stuff about the Buddha, but really in the Torah and the Quran, it's like, well, yeah, but it's God's word, and you can believe it or not believe it, but that's what it's supposed to be, and there are only two scripture that fit that description, and one is for Jews and the other is for Gentiles, and yeah. And then you have to compare, like, well, where's Buddhist civilization? It's nowhere. Even the Chinese won't acknowledge it and won't say it's their state religion. Where's Hinduism? It's a fallen civilization with its people complaining about.
It's not. Well, no, it's not fallen. It had some problems, but now it's on the upswing.
Well, with its people saying, oh, don't. People complaining about St. Valentine's Day, as you were telling us earlier. You're saying that they resent all these Western festivals being pushed on them by their commercial classes, and feeling inferior if they don't celebrate it, feeling inferior by their women that they don't celebrate it. That's the thing. It really ultimately it's a male female thing. This patriarchy matriarchy thing, and it centers on sex, on how it is regulated. And what happens when it isn't regulated? And when it isn't regulated, you can't get anything done. You can theorize about the solution and the problem, but you can't get anyone to do anything or even care.
Well, just the very fact that they're fighting back against Valentine's Day shows that it's resurging. I mean, the very fact that there's a fight at all. I mean, if they were down and out, there would be no fight.
Yeah, because the forces of commercialism are very strong. I mean, a lot of people just worship mammon out of, well, just their own inner desires, because we associate wealth with power and power with virtue, usually. That person has a nice car. they must be a nice person, or at least a nice person. A nasty person with a nice car, and at least having something desirable. We acquire status by having desirable things, or things that people desire. And power and status and wealth is eternally desirable. And of course, even virtuous people know they must have these things in order to get things done. And I guess to make sure that the best people acquire these things fairly, power, wealth, status, that they would have to obey rules, and these rules are in scripture, and it's usually the whole thing about telling the truth, and obviously if somebody is lying, then they're on the slide to criminality. But people don't seem to care now that
Well, in the Kali Yuga, which Hinduism believes the Dark Age, I mean, power is associated with wickedness. I mean, in the Golden Age, power is associated with virtue, but now it's not, and we can see that the most powerful people are not virtuous.
But does it have any solutions? Does Hindu scripture have any solutions for the Kali Yuga except, well, put up with it?
Well, you're supposed to practice Dharma regardless. You're supposed the Hindu scriptures say you have to do what's right regardless of the fact of whether it's going to be affecting what's around you anyway. Just do it regardless, and eventually it'll correct itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we'll be dead, but hopefully being recycled in our karma. Is that is that is that it?
Kind of. But also the karma affects society whether you're noticing it or not.
But surely,
It, it has an effect.
yeah. So people kind of they might be incentivized to do the right thing if they thought, well, okay, I might lose my life. Well, if I do this virtuous thing, go to war, defend, my territory from foreign invaders, whatever, and then you kind of need them to believe in an afterlife where your sacrifice is rewarded. And if you're saying this is your only life, then people are more likely to desert in droves. It's like, well, I don't want to fight the enemy, I want to live. So I'll run away, because if I stay in the army that I was conscripted from into, I will lose my life. So I'll, do the obvious thing and desert. And this means that your kingdom, your nation will lose a war and you'll be taken over. So I guess, all these things, do serve a purpose. That these rules were there, and have been for so long in order to keep all these civilizations that have gone on before us in place. I mean, obviously it hasn't worked all the time, but yeah, it's I mean, that's the whole idea of religion, that sometimes we have to kill other people who want to invade us, for example,
In the Gita,
or be
they're
killed.
killing. In the Gita, Arjun is killing his own family members for the simple fact that they didn't protect women. Um, a woman almost got raped in one of these king's courts, and the god Krishna said, "Well, that's it. I mean, they're so fallen, they need to be wiped out." And so, I mean, the Hindu scriptures teach that you do need to kill people that don't follow dharma.
Yeah, but you kind of need to have due process of, you can't just sort of say, oh, you're a murderer, and then the person like, who, what, why, and they'll just get, punished without any kind of process whereby they can protest their innocence and be found guilty
Well, yeah, I
fairly.
mean, it was obvious that the men in the king's court tried to rape that woman or disrobe her, nobody contested that. It wasn't like they're saying, well, no, that didn't happen. And it wasn't, when you're talking about war, it's different than when you're talking about like, a person. This was a king. So, the king allowed a woman to be nearly disrobed inside his, you know, hall. And so it was a declaration, so they declared war on the kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, this makes me think of the Trojan War. That Prince Paris went to Sparta, saw the world's most beautiful woman, Helen of Sparta, but who was married to King Menelaus. But anyway, he eloped with her, took her back to Troy, and apparently that outraged the other kings of Greece. That they besieged Troy for 10 years. And maybe there's just a hint of suggesting that Troy fell not because of I mean it was an impregnable citadel, so 10 years wasn't enough to invade it to. But anyway, the enemy was let in because they just wanted to believe in a lie. They wanted to believe that the Greeks left the Trojan force as a leaving present after besieging them for 10 years. And they were warned by Cassandra, who was the daughter of King Priam, who was king of Troy, not to bring them in. But anyway, they ignored her because they didn't want, they just wanted to have fun. They wanted to party. And there was this Trojan horse thing, and it looked like party stuff, I guess. And really, ultimately, it's all, all these religious prohibitions are intended, I think, to keep our minds clear of all the emotions that might blind us to the truth or to logic. And the worst is the truth, and you can't, if people are deliberately ignoring what is obvious, then they're probably not acting correctly, or responding correctly to events. And I think that is basically
Well,
the
I mean, but
problem.
that the pagan tale there is that obviously the Trojans, because of their uh immorality, it extended into the rest of their life,
So
right?
it's this thing. It's like there would be a time when people say, "Oh, but sexual morality is nothing to do with public morality," and it's like, well, that's not true. It's so obviously not true. Although at the time I couldn't see it, but if you're having sex with all kinds of people, you're going to be telling a lot of lies. If okay, so basically the only person you're allowed to have sex with in theory is your wife or your husband. But if you go around having sex with any other person, there's just going to be trouble. However polyamory, you're going to be or whatever, there's going to be trouble. People are going to be jealous because, once people have sex with you, they think they kind of own you. And then if they know that you're having sex with somebody else, they're going to get jealous and angry. And in order to avoid them getting jealous and angry, you're going to be lying to them. And then there'll be other stuff that you'll have to lie about
Yeah,
to.
but but I mean, that's because those people, I mean, jealousy is a very low trade. I mean, these people to think that you own someone because you've had sex with them, that's trash.
I know
And
it. Okay, we're not supposed to think that, but I guess but you're talking as a gay man. But I'm saying if you were a heterosexual man and you had a wife and she was having sex with some other man, I don't think you'd be quite so laid back about it. Because really, you could be busting your guts to pay for another man's kid. So you wouldn't be quite so, relaxed about it.
no, obviously the the culture of restricting heterosexual sex is to make sure that you know who's having children with who. Um, right, is to know who's having children with who.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't have any. It shouldn't. People give it reasons outside of that. They don't. It's not just well, who's having kids with who? Because look at all these people. I mean, they don't care if you're having sex with a condom. I mean, you're just still not even supposed to be doing that. And that's because they have a very low mentality about sex. They don't they think that it's just dirty, that it just has no meaning, that people have negative intentions with it. They have negative intentions. People who don't want other people having sex with condoms have negative intentions about sex. They look down on people that they have sex with.
Yeah, because just because somebody wants to have sex with you doesn't mean that they mean you well, as women would know. I mean, a man could want to have sex with a woman and rape her. So obviously, it's not a good idea to assume that anyone who wants to have sex with you is well intentioned. But it's actually quite easy to have
Yeah,
sex
but
with.
a lot of them, it's not that a lot of them are not well intentioned, and that anyone who reads negativity into sex does not have good intentions themselves. I don't read negativity into sex because I don't have a negative intention or negative feeling or negative thoughts about the other person when I engage in it.
I know, but maybe later, might you not feel exploited?
No, I've never felt that. No.
Okay, I assume you're not the promiscuous kind of homosexual.
No, I am.
You are. Okay,
Yes.
so but you feel on the whole well treated by those who have sex with you.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, I don't expect them to take care of me or anything like that, but I mean, I don't feel as though I've just lowered myself. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I've lowered myself or I've done anything negative.
I really I understand, but sometimes people deny that they have been abused or exploited, and it's understandable because obviously they don't want to think they have been lowered. But I remember a conversation I was having with two girlfriends, and girlfriend A was saying to girlfriend B that she kind of she spent the evening with the night with this guy, and told us in some detail what she got up to, and girlfriend B said, "Oh, you were raped." And it was, it came almost as a surprise to her. And she said, "No, no, no, I wasn't, blah, blah, blah." And, and in a way, it's so subjective. But anyway, have you heard of David Starkey?
Say that again?
David Starkey, the British historian.
No.
Um, I just remember some years ago he was and oh, he's gay, by the way, and but he does say very interesting right wing things, and he's very honest about um, um, well, even rape amongst gay men. It's like, well, young men do there are gay male sex predators, and one can quickly be exploited and abused in this way if one didn't watch out. It
Well,
could
I mean,
happen quite quickly.
outside of, outside of rape, I don't see how you're exploited or abused if it's consensual.
Well, I guess the thing is, um, the only way to really define it is like, well, it's only rape if you didn't, you fought back, and the rapist just carried on. So I guess with men, they would they would fight back presumably because it's not that easy to rape another man. But But women, have this extra thing of saying, well, at the time I was so frightened I couldn't do anything. I was just frozen or whatever.
I
So
mean,
so that's why he said rape is about violence, not consent.
outside of rape, though, it really shouldn't be viewed as, I mean, predation. I mean, what do you mean by predation? The fact that he just wants to have sex? Or, I mean, so what if he has negative thinking inside his head, like, oh, this is some whore? I mean, I mean, people think negatively about each other all the time. I mean, people think negative about me, like when I'm working with them or when I'm talking to them. They have negative thoughts. I mean, negative thoughts can be injected anywhere. It's not, but it's not like I'm being preyed upon, or if I can't even tell that I'm being preyed upon, what's the
Yeah,
difference?
well, then you're stupid and you shouldn't be allowed to have sex with anyone. you know, I mean, it's down to that level. So what I'm trying to say is that David Starkey was being honest. He was saying, this is what happens. Yeah, you might have sex with somebody and then they might not call, and you might never see them again, and you want to, and but it's too bad you've been had, and what happened was a very brief encounter when you had sex and there was nothing afterwards, and you're not allowed to complain that they didn't call you again or didn't thank you for the nice experience that
Bob,
they
thank
had.
you. Disturbing allegations in Anne Arundel County.
Sorry.
Why do you
Okay, I'm
necessarily
going to
need
try
that?
that clip when he actually said that. But anyway, he got a lot of criticism when he said rape is about violence, not consent. And they were angry with him, for saying that. But let me play it for you, because I think it's quite interesting. And so, you can't even point out the obvious.
I think there are two points that I'd like to make. The first relates directly and specifically to the question.
Well,
Why
I mean,
was
but
that
rape is different than
Sorry, you
when...
can't hear it, can you? Because it's OBS. But I've already
No.
started to play it. It's only
No,
under 3.5 minutes. Would you do you want to set yourself up so you can hear it without interrupting the conversation?
Yeah, hold on, let me mute and I'll go.
Okay, I'll play it now. Let me actually. Okay, I'll do it now.
Idea of anonymity in the coalition agreement. It was directly because of the intervention of a very old and dear friend of mine, Conrad Russell, the late Earl Russell, who, when he was at your college, dealt as a tutor with exactly the kind of case that we're talking about. That is why it was there. The second issue is, I think we've got ourselves into a hopeless confusion on the whole question of rape. The word rape means violence. That is the Latin root. That is how it has always existed in English. That is how it has always been understood. What we have tried to do is to take that word with all its terrible associations and apply it to a whole series of much more awkward, much more difficult to establish, much more contested and contentious sexual encounters by focusing on this issue of consent, which so often boils down, as it did exactly in this case, to his word against her word. Now, I cannot see that the law is at all good at dealing with this. It really isn't. It works very badly. And I think that it encourages false accusation. It also encourages other things as well on the other side. It's a very, very awkward, difficult law. We're in a state of complete confusion about sexual etiquette, aren't we? Complete confusion about what is right and what is wrong. We're trying to change it. We're trying to use the law to change it. And you, Tessa, said something which I think, frankly, is deeply shocking. You said that our interest as a society is on bringing forward more victims of rape. I'm sorry, we have one interest in society when the law is applied, and it's called justice. And justice is blind, and justice is even-handed. And this sense of a very large female paw resting on one pan of the scale is bad and it's wrong. And I'm going to use the word, it's immoral.
It's utterly reactionary tosh. Rape does not
have to involve violence. No means no. If you proceed, it's rape, whether there's violence involved or not.
Shouting, by the way, doesn't deal with the problem at all effectively.
Well, I'm outraged at what you said.
No, I'm sorry.
So will half the country.
Didn't you say
well,
that you didn't?
good, because it might make them think. Just sort of mouthing these things, you know, no means no. Think of I'm not heterosexual. I have been in very complex sexual situations. Being gay, I'm actually used in one sense to being what it's like on the other side. I know what's involved. I know the complexities. And this, you know, no means no words.
In a relationship in which sex is the norm, then clearly, I mean, nobody watching this asks their wife verbally, would you like to have sex, dear? Nobody does that in relationships.
Let's go back to the question, which is whether anonymity should be given in future rape. David Starkey.
I think the two...
Okay, so that was it. But I think David Starkey was trying to say that you know, words are not exchanged. You know, people don't say, "Can I put it up you?" They don't say that, yes or no. They just do it. Right?
Well,
Gay
I know.
or straight?
There's obviously consensual sex and there's obviously unconsensual sex. I mean, it's usually obvious what the two are.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, then you struggle and go in and, you know, put your clothes on or stand up or, you know, walk out the door. Something to signal that proceedings are at an end. And if you're too stupid to do that, too weak, then, you know, frankly, you shouldn't be allowed to be out on your own. So, and because he pointed that out, he was condemned. I mean, he said, you know, a whole bunch of stuff that you think, well, it's obviously true, and he said it so well. But it makes no difference to the feminazis. And the reason why feminazis now rule is because everybody's thinking, well, I won't be falsely accused, maybe not me, of you know, a historic sexual offence like Judge Kavanaugh was. You know, 20 years later, they'll wait until you're famous and then accuse you of a historic sexual offence. And use it as a kind of blackmail. You know, is that good for society? Is it good for all these politicians who are in charge of, you know, massive projects and wield power to you know, be told, you know, to be constantly open to the danger of blackmail? Because, you know, everybody's had a few sexual indiscretions in their past. If they're, you know, in any way desirable or attractive or successful, they're going to be tempted, and quite often people will give in to temptation, particularly when they haven't been told that they're not supposed to give in to temptation in this way.
But yes, but giving in to temptation's very... You're saying that the problem is you might be accused of rape. You could be accused of a lot of other things. I mean, just being in someone's presence, you could be accused of something that you didn't do. You could be accused of making a racist slur. You could be accused...
It shouldn't be a crime. I don't think it should be a crime. Saying mean things or bad words about people. You know,
Well, okay, but even if... Well, some people are trying to make it a crime or have made it a crime, and so, but also, I mean, it might not be a crime, but it could ruin your reputation.
Yeah, we want to, you know, take things away from, you know, like, oh, you said the wrong word, you use an N word, and therefore you are to lose your job. You know, And we know that people do that to each other all the time in order to assert status. Because, it would be, oh, Vince, you said this word, and it's a really, really bad word. You should be careful, Vince, because, because it's evil, because it's disapproved of. You're lucky that I'm not going to make a big thing about it, but other people. And if I say anything like that to you, I would be raising my status over you, even if I didn't report you or, call for the full force of law to be, hammered on your head. It would be just the assertion of status, like, no, 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 you used the wrong word. And this is what people do, unthinkingly.
Yeah, but you could be falsely accused of anything. I mean, you could be falsely accused of a lot of things. You could be falsely accused of murder.
Yeah, and there would be due process, like, oh, well, who was I supposed to murder? Or, well,
Well,
who saw me, blah, blah,
there's
blah.
due process under a rape accusation as well.
Yeah, and the whole thing about the rape accusation is that, it's stacked. It's like, it can't be one person's word against another, because accusations can be so easily made up, can't it? And then if you're saying a historic sexual offence of 20 years ago, that can't be proven apart other than, you think, well, this person's more likely to tell the truth than the other person, well, it shouldn't even come to court. But now they routinely, these cases come to court and take up a lot of time and legal resources, and these feminazis think this is a good thing, and the men are too afraid to say enough is enough. Because they look at Kavanaugh and think, oh, well, but it won't happen to me until it does. And gay people can be subject to that too. I mean, in the UK, there's Philip Schofield. He came out, sort of thing, and he was actually, well, he's still married and he's got children, and then the story came out that, well, he did have an affair with an 18-year-old whatever, a research assistant or whatever, and that guy is blackmailing him here, and so that was why he came out. He didn't just come out for no particular reason. He thought he would come out to preempt the shock horror situation of being accused of having sex with an 18-year-old research assistant a few years ago. So it's compromising.
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with people sullying sex with their own minds. This has nothing to do with, I mean, it's not my fault if someone else wants to think badly about sex. That's not my fault. And I don't need to worry about it. I don't think badly about sex. And if they have something bad in their mind while they're having sex with me, I mean, that's their problem, not mine. If I don't even know about it, what does it matter?
Yeah, okay, that's what, fair enough. I mean, you had the benefit of it, you enjoyed the experience. But I'm saying to say this sort of thing is okay will make more and more people do it, and a lot of these silly women, they don't know what they're doing, and then they feel used and abused, and then they make false accusations, and and so the law should be made very clear.
Well, but no one is ever accused of rape. I mean, no one's convicted of rape just because somebody else said they were. I mean, there has to be evidence. There has to be circumstantial evidence or DNA evidence or something like that. I mean, no one's going to be convicted just on the fact that someone else.
Kavanaugh nearly was, wasn't he? I mean,
but he wasn't.
I know, but it was, pretty touch and go, wasn't it? I know it was pretty important to Trump that he had, just this one extra judge who would be on the side of conservatism rather than a liberal. Which is why this woman made it up and used it against it. It was a political accusation. So yeah, it is important. It could, affect the fate of nations. And clearly it does, because people are just still pretending it doesn't matter. And of course, in the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 15, there is this verse that says, "No man shall be convicted on the uncorroborated testimony of a possibly lying witness."
Well, I mean, okay, but I mean, the witness can't be a woman.
Well, it could be a man. I mean, it doesn't, it's not confined just to, rape cases. It could be anything. It's like, "Oh, I saw you murder somebody, and you never
Yeah,
did."
but you can't do it on the testimony of a woman, only a man's testimony, right?
No, I know women are not allowed to give evidence in Jewish courts, strictly speaking. But that's not the case for Gentile courts, because they're saying they can't be trusted. It doesn't matter what they say; they can't be trusted either, for or against. But the point is, if you allow this sort of thing, then everything will kind of break down. Because, obviously, people, when told that they can do this sort of thing, have sex outside marriage, they do, and then they have all sorts of experiences that might make them hate the opposite sex, or indeed have hurt the opposite sex, or any other sex partner. But anyway, it's clear that allowing people, saying it's okay for them to have extramarital sex, means a lot of badly parented, and disturbed children. And of course, that's going to be a problem that will cause a problem of governance in the future. I mean, the fact that you're not as good as you used to be, or your standards of education are lowering, or your standards of mental health are lowering, well, that's not going to be good.
I don't know. I think the way to deal with this is the way they did in the old ages, where, look, without any sort of interference, most people are going to want monogamous marriage because most people are jealous. Most women want their men just for them. Most men want their women just for them. And if it's legal to have sex outside of marriage, or to not marry, or to have children outside of marriage, most people are going to choose
Yeah.
heterosexual monogamous marriage.
Are they? Are they? I mean, men are motivated primarily by sex, and if they know they're gonna, be legally liable, and it's like, no, I just want to have sex. I don't want to pay for the children.
Yeah, but in the day and age of DNA testing, they really can't get away with it anymore.
No, but you know that in France, a man is not even allowed to get a DNA test of children that he suspects, that the children of his wife that he suspects is not his. That they're not allowed to, and they were
Well,
trying to
that's
get.
a one-off ridiculous. You know what I mean? There's always going to anything. Whenever you have anything, there's going to be a one-off, absolutely ridiculous, stupid law. You know what I mean? Fine, that's a ridiculous, stupid law, but I mean that's not going to be the average way it's going to pan out in most societies.
Well,
This is the problem that everyone's like, oh my God, all these transgenders. What is it? A one in 1,000 people is transgender? I mean, it's not like it's like pandemic. You're talking about very small percentages here of the population that are having this problem.
yeah. So why are we even so worried about them? They actually want more people to be like that. Why are they doing it? They actually want people to have fewer children. Okay, they want, but there are legal ways and illegal ways, and there'll be problem if.
That happened because people used to everything. There's action and reaction. there was a point where people were having too many children and that they couldn't even feed them. Okay, there was a point in history where people couldn't take care of their kids because they had 13 kids and they didn't have enough money in the Industrial Revolution to pay for them all. And so everyone was starved and had horrible, short, miserable lives. And they all were saying, oh my God, we have to reduce the birth rate. And they did. They had to reduce it. And now we've had the opposite effect where it's gone too far in the other direction. And, I guess now it's equilibrating itself because everyone is saying, oh my God, we need to have more kids. We need to have more kids.
Well, it does suggest that the government doesn't know what it's doing.
The average man back in the Industrial Revolution who had a piss shit job and had 8 and 9 kids was saying, oh my God, I need less children. I can't deal with this. It's too much for me. The average person on the street did not want to have as many children as they were having. And so it was bad for society. I mean, you had so many excesses of deformed and warped children, mentally ill children, because they were just raised with resources that nobody could afford. And, but it just, it was the reaction, and then it went too far in the other direction.
Yeah, I guess we'll always get it wrong, but at least we should know what the rules are to at least have something, so some pointer as to what we're supposed to be doing with our lives. And if we don't know, at least produce the next generation, so somebody else later might eventually find out what the hell it is we're supposed to be doing.
The thing is that when you do this, you're always going to get the reaction. They banned birth control. They banned birth control back in, whenever. You weren't allowed to use it. You weren't allowed to talk about it. Doctors weren't allowed to prescribe it. And people were having too many children and that they couldn't take care of. I mean, the same thing is going to happen if we ban homosexuality. You know what? There's going to be a reaction against it. Number one, homosexuals are going to eventually fight back against it. Number two, there's going to be heterosexuals that sympathize with the homosexuals. And you're just going to be back in this situation again and again and again and again. It's never going to end. This is a never-ending story of trying to ban homosexuality. You could do it for a period of time, but then it's just going to come back, and it's going to come back with a vengeance. And then they're going to become radical, and they're going to push themselves on society, and then they're going to push too hard, and then everyone's going to push back, ban it, and they're going to push back too hard and ban it and be cruel and, bring back social abuse and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, you just need to let these things sort themselves out.
Yeah, I am. I'm just saying, these are the rules, but within these rules, there's room for maneuver. So as long as you don't produce illegitimate offspring, you'll be fine. You won't be lashed 100 times
well,
in
but
public.
Your brothel system, you're saying that we could have brothels. The only way you're going to be able to do that without producing illegitimate offspring is offering people birth control.
Yeah. But then...
a lot of people are going to disagree with you on that. They're going to say, birth control is wrong. What about the anti-birth control advocate people?
Well, no, because actually the scripture doesn't say we can't practice birth control. So what isn't forbidden is allowed. And anyway, really, religion is about law. And obviously, okay, if you choose a religion, then you should obey its rules. I mean, if you say, if you're Hindu and it says you can't eat beef, then you mustn't eat beef. I mean, just do the follow through. Because if you regard religion as merely a list of rules, then choose it carefully and compare to the others and see which one.
The problem that the reason why India is having so many if Hindus hadn't banned beef eating, they wouldn't have all these liberals over there wanting to eat beef and doing, purposely eating beef in restaurants to annoy people and have beef eating festivals. You wouldn't have any of those problems if if they had just said, well, you know what, under Hinduism, you shouldn't eat beef, but it's not illegal to eat beef. And then they wouldn't have all these problems. But now they have like huge social problems over beef because they tried to ban beef eating.
Well, I mean, it's because of the BJP, isn't it? I mean, it's the Hindu Nationalist Party, and they
Well,
want to
I
assert.
agree with them going around doing that. That's just going to cause, just like trying to ban Valentine's Day, you're only going to make it worse.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I wouldn't do anything like that. And eventually these things will fade away when you make the celebration of the other thing more fun or cheaper or something. If you want to do it, you'll have to put your thinking cap on and make it work, make it appealing to the people who matter, who will push it through. And this is all about political activism anyway. Presenting things in a way that will be found to be persuasive by the people you need to persuade, and you need to decide who it is that you should target. And this is all part and parcel of politics. Deciding who matters and who to ask and what to do and all that. But yeah, I'm just trying to tell you that while I can see the appeal of worshipping the god of lust might be for a young man like you, it's probably not a good idea for women to go around randomly having sex with lots of people just because they're feeling horny. I mean, I'm sure more people feel horny than when they're without a partner than when they do have a partner. And obviously they should choose their partners carefully, or they'll end up having miserable lives. And I'm afraid the effect of allowing people to have sex is that the general quality of a partner now available will not be as good as it was before. So it's like women just want really deep down, if you said, okay, well, I agree to marry, I agree to have children, what kind of man would you like to marry? They're not going to say a poor man. They're going to say, well, the least you can do is pay for me and my children, and I'll happily be housewife and mother.
I just wanted, do you know who Brother Nathaniel is?
Yes.
Okay, he's being interviewed right now on Liberty Works Radio about the Noahide laws. I think they just went to break.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if you...
Let's go there then.
Okay, I sent you the link. I don't know if you can put it on.
I'll have a look.
Let's see.
Maybe you can. Okay.
America, born to freedom. The Liberty.
Yeah, right now it's for the next.
Liberty Works Radio Network. Truth in broadcasting.
I think the next 5 minutes. Oh, I don't know how to put it on.
Oh, okay.
So
give me the link and I'll put it on, but you won't be able to see the pictures.
I did. I sent it to you in the Hangout.
Okay. I'm also looking.
I think we should wait about 5 minutes for the commercials to end.
Okay.
I'll just.
Okay.
Other issues that come before the Supreme Court. That decision does not.
Yeah, we'll just wait 5 minutes. But what were we talking about? Well, I mean, obviously, look, you're going to have people that are not going to be happy with the fact that people have access to birth control under secular Quran. What about abortion? Didn't you say you would allow it?
Yeah, because there's nothing specifically. I mean, I'm just going to be legalistic about it because the Quran actually says, okay, don't kill your healthy female babies. But I guess in practice, people just would, and nobody would be prosecuted for it. but obviously, he's saying that don't kill your healthy children because they are the wrong sex, or they might be maybe you just don't want any children, so you kill them, because you can't be bothered to bring them up, because it can happen even amongst married couples. They don't want to have children every time they have sex, do they? So yeah, I mean, you can play around with the birth control rules. I mean, if you regulate the supply of the pill, then you can say, well, only women deemed to have completed their families get the pill. And this year we're saying it's going to be 4. So, you have to have at least 4 before you will be given the pill. Or it could be 2. I don't know. I mean, you can raise it and lower it. But yeah, the ways of playing around with the rule. I'm playing the thing.
Those who knew Sam and
You're
worked
playing it
closely
right
with
now.
him
It's on commercial.
called him the
Okay,
lad.
okay. I'll stop
It should be on commercial for another 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay, you tell me when to play it then.
Okay, and then I can't hear it through here. I'm gonna have to hear it through the channel, right?
Yeah.
I'll just
But yeah, I think, ultimately, it's like people can't see the connection, which is why the rules are so strict. It's like, people think, well, what's going to happen here? Is Western civilization going to fall just because I have sex with somebody not my spouse? And of course it doesn't immediately fall. It's only when, everybody thinks that everybody does it, and then they become the majority, and then you can't tell them off. You can't even, change their minds, and they won't care. They will reach a stage where they don't care that Western civilization will fall if they don't stop. They're actually saying they don't care. All the people who who are familiar with my ideas and who won't take it forward, they're the people who are basically saying they don't care. But, for some strange reason, they're calling themselves nationalists. Which is, completely demented. So even calling them nationalists is a joke, because a nationalist would want to consider what's in the long-term national interest, and these people are only interested in victimizing those they hate.
Okay, Claire, let's go over to the brother Nathaniel. Let's hear, because I think he's coming on now.
All right.
All right, so I'll just listen on the
You've been doing this for about 10 years
YouTube.
now, brother?
No, longer. I've been doing this since 2007.
Wow, okay. And you recently, before we get into the H word, you've recently been, I guess, banned by YouTube and Jugal, and what else is happening on your end?
Well, it started with Jugal. They deranked me. And then last June, after many restrictions, strikes all the time, 1 strike, 2 strikes, and I was suspended for 2 months. They finally just banned me. So in one moment, some Jew picks his nose and sticks his finger on the algorithm key, either Eileen Hershinoff of the Anti-Defamation League, or the other hater of free speech, Jonathan Greenblatt, or Heidi Barrett, another despiser of our First Amendment and our natural God-given right of free speech, just sticks their finger on an algorithmic key, and zap, 560 videos are gone. Wow. It's incredible, because Jews don't work, okay? So a man can put all this labor and effort and creativity and even and beauty. If you look at my videos, the way I illustrate, they're beautiful. And in one moment, a Jew who despises labor and who despises beauty and inherently cannot grasp beauty because the ugliness is within every Jew because of the deocidal curse, that they can just stick a finger on an algorithm key and hours and years of labor is gone. This is symbolic. what they do on YouTube with their algorithm. It's symbolic that a Jew in 1 second can destroy a man's labor that he puts in with much effort, toil, sweat over the years. It's symbolic of the wickedness of Jewry. And they control this country, and that's the scary thing.
Well, there's a book. I don't know if you are familiar with Barbarians Inside the Gates, the Black
Yeah,
book.
I have it.
Okay. Colonel Don de Grand Pré, he mentions the monopoly of mass manipulation, and he talks about the government is mass manipulation by government is accomplished by controlling what he calls the 7 M's: money, media, markets, medical, mind, morals, and muscle, the last of which, of course, is our military. Is that pretty much all the choke points that the Antichrist are controlling these days?
Yeah, but we can't be ambiguous about it. We can't abstract it. We have to boil it down to present-day visible demons, and those are Jews. So I get right down to it. I name the names. I show them. I show their faces, the events, the times, the exact details of what they're doing. And because of that, YouTube couldn't take it. Because they can't take truth. It scares them. Because it exposes their criminality. But truth will endures. Lying is but for a moment, relatively, and truth endures. So they try to take me down. PayPal, which is owned by Daniel Schulman, it's no longer owned by Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. Daniel Schulman. His name is not Daniel O'Brien. It's Daniel Schulman. He
should
bought
be something
PayPal,
that is fundamental, that applies to all people equally. Clearly,
so
the Israel-Palestine
I'm not the
issue
only one who's been banned by
is
PayPal. A lot of good people have been banned by PayPal. Don't even
somewhere
mention
where
the word Jew.
some people have rights.
They could just be conservative.
Что касается родителя номер один, родителя номер два, я уже как-то публично говорил, какая президент у нас не будет родителя, один будет папа и мама.
The Jews don't like.
Что касается родителя
Well, Dr. E. Michael Jones brings up the fact that Jewry introduced abortion. Actually, it's infanticide. It's not abortion. Infanticide and sodomy into American society.
Yes,
and of course, the ADL.
great enablers of Roe v. Wade were Jews. I did an article on this years ago, and I showed who pushed it, what organizations were involved, and it's Jews. I mean, if you look for anything miserable, if you look for anything destructive, you better believe it that the Jews are behind it. They cannot do anything good. It's not inherently in them, because goodness is only those who have Christ in them, and they crucified Christ. They can't do anything good. It's impossible. And if they do, it's a copy. It's a mimic. And the one who brought this out 2 centuries ago was Richard Wagner. He says Jews cannot create good music. And if they do, it's just a copy. And he's so right. So I did a video on that. The Jews took it down within 2 months. Even though I played Wagner's, his beautiful pieces in it. But Wagner is, you can't play him in Israel. It's so stupid.
Well, when you control the media and education and what have you, then the sheeple are going to be obviously brainwashed and conditioned to believe whatever is put out there.
Yeah, but they're waking up. They're waking up, and they're waking up on the internet, because people go on the internet. And that's why Jonathan Greenblatt is insisting, demanding you pass, you stupid hacks that we control, you pass this Internet Modernization Act. He's pushing it hard. So all your people need to go to just put in a Google search, or wherever you go. I don't use Google. I use Bing, Yandex, Quant. and just put in the enemies of free speech video. And you'll see, I show him demanding it of the hacks on Capitol Hill and what it's all about. It's to criminalize criticizing Jews, is what it boils down to, because it will put them in harm's way, and that's going to be a crime. We'll put you in jail. It's very serious. And I'm telling you right now, Nicholas, I'm preparing for Tor and Darknet. I'm preparing it. I'm ready to do it. I got everything ready to go. You see, I'm 10 steps ahead of the Jews. I know them. I grew up in them. I'm 10 steps ahead of these people.
You got to be these days, and unfortunately, as I mentioned, with the brainwashing and what have you, 90% of the American sheeple. I mean, how do we overcome the fact that they are telling us 6 million, and probably the majority of those?
How do you overcome it? You don't, because it's a dead issue. No one gives a damn about it. It's a cover. It's a cover. It's a distraction for the Jewish control today. That's all that is. Forget the Holocaust. It's irrelevant. It's over. They know it. Gen Z doesn't give a damn.
It's a bit repetitive, isn't it, Vincent? Hello, people. I'm gonna stop.
I thought it was gonna be about the Noahide laws, but I mean, they're just going on about. Oh wait, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I thought that was going to be about the Noahide laws, but it wasn't, and they just seem to be just getting into Jew bashing, like just common everyday garden variety Jew bashing that you hear. So they're not really saying anything all that.
You know, I have a theory about this, and I think it sort of everything fits quite nicely. You know, assuming you take the religious narrative seriously, which is that okay? I know anti-Semites don't accept it, but let's suppose Jews are God's chosen people, and let's say they were chosen to promote the Noahide laws. Have they been doing it? Of course not. And so the thing is, I think anti-Semitism rises proportionately to their lack of promoting it. So, you know, the less they promote it, the more hatred, the more anti-Semitism that will be provoked, because it means that, you know, basically people who live in societies where they do all the things that the Noahide laws forbid and don't do the things that it asks people to do, such as set up a justice system, they will just have a bad time, and then they will blame Jews for it. And this, you know, neatly explains anti-Semitism. And of course, if Jews are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, i.e. promoting the Noahide laws, then there'll be other stuff that they will be neglecting to do as well.
Well, you know, I view it the same way. What's his name? I was on Aaron Amahoud's, and he blames homosexuals for heterosexual promiscuity. I mean, so basically he lumps it in with being gay. Like, heterosexuals having too much sex with each other is gay, and so let's attack the gays. And, like, it's the same kind of thing that the Gentiles do, in that they're misbehave and do all this kind of garbage and are stupid, and then they want to blame the Jews for everything. And the other thing that goes on and on and on and on is, by the way these people talk, you would think Gentiles have no mind of their own. They can't think. If the Jews say it on TV, the Gentiles have to think that. It's impossible. They don't have critical thinking skills, and they're all just brainwashed, and it's so sad. And the big Jews are behind everything. I mean, I don't think these people know how they come off. They come off sounding like they
cattle.
Like cattle. They come off sounding like they're cattle.
Am I going to get another strike? Okay. Basically, it's okay, let's assume that people, do care and they're saying, we don't want to do that. But then there's nobody in charge who will say, well, that shouldn't be allowed. There ought to be a law against it. We're not going to do it anymore. That there's nobody in charge, and that is one of the problems of living in a matriarchy, that there's no one in charge, and even the people that are above you actually are themselves scared of the people below them, and they won't stick their necks out. They'll think it's enough that they keep their jobs, to the end of the year, and they don't care as long as they survive in the short term, because they're not long-term thinkers. Because if you're a nationalist, as I just assumed that nationalists would be long-term thinkers. So, it's just stupid to even call these people nationalists. They're not into thinking in the long term or into analysing ideas at all. They basically just want to respond to their basest instincts, and they think foreigners and Jews and non-whites, whatever, is a problem, and they want to get rid of them, and that's all they can think in terms of. Well, of course, it's a problem of government, it's a problem of law enforcement. It's a fact that there's just too many excuses and too many entitlements by probably half the population, i.e. women. That is kind of stopping anything from being fixed, because you can't tell them anything, they're in charge, they won't listen, or they'll accuse you of something. Or, well, yeah. I mean, because that's what happened to David Starkey, really. He pointed out the obvious, that really, if somebody's to be convicted of rape, the least he should do is to use force and overcome the victim with force. Not because he thought the victim was consenting, because the victim was not struggling. And then 20 years later, when the alleged rapist is rich and famous enough to be worth suing, they'll accuse him of something like that. And of course, nothing will work in public life on this basis, because nobody will stick up for any principle. Men in senior positions will not be wanting to antagonize their wives over some small matter of, some injustice being suffered by somebody else, a hypothetical injustice being suffered by some stranger they don't know or don't care about. They're not going to, risk anything or inconvenience themselves. And then, but the people who suffer from any injustice are not capable of organising themselves either, or people just think they deserve to suffer because they're so stupid.
Well, I mean, I think there's also a degree of men blame women for all these problems, but men are the ones that screwed up the society. I mean, men behaved badly, and then they want to scapegoat women for it.
Yeah. They do, because they don't kind of get it that ultimately they're in charge. It's like, why the matriarchy is so nervous and looking over its shoulders now is that it knows that ultimately they're only in existence because the people capable in theory of changing things are too scared to organise themselves. But the moment they get it, the moment the penny drops, people will organise themselves and will get rid of this nonsense. But currently they're too scared. And so the message has to be repeated again and again and again and again.
Well, men don't even have the power to do that if they wanted to.
They can't organise. It's like they don't trust each other. It's like David Starkey, he's gay, but he doesn't like to see what's happening to heterosexual men. And then he gets silenced by George Galloway, who was supposed to be some big fat hero. we don't know. It's like, no, it's like everybody has a bit of the truth. They say something that gets them liked, but they have some support for some, really wicked lie that that they're also at the same time supporting. And this is a situation of George Galloway, the guy in that David Starkey exchange who told him off. So he was just saying, he's actually been inconsistent about the whole thing. And you can't even pin anybody down and ask them, what did you mean? Why did you say that? Nobody's accountable. You can't reach them. They're not going to explain anything to you because they can get away with just ignoring you and telling their truth through their very own echo chamber. So you have leaders afraid of their followers. Because they'll be thinking of, I'm going to lose subscribers. How many dislikes have I got? And I'm better than Claire because I've got more people listening to me. But then who is one to judge? I mean, how is one to judge who is who deserves to be listened to just because we have more subscribers or because of the quality of our content and the soundness of our arguments, when people don't even know the difference between a sound and a valid argument, including Jen. And talking about Jen, did you go on her chill stream on Wednesday?
No, I saw her on Aaron's. I don't think I went on her chill stream. No.
Mm-hmm.
She was on Aaron's with me, so I saw her there.
Oh, right.
And I guess I might do weekend review with her.
Mm-hmm.
And Duvid. But
what fun! So how was Aaron's stream? I actually missed that. I might go and have a look. But so what did you talk about?
The only thing is, fucking Brundlefly came on, and he's just obsessed with me and homosexuality. I mean, Brundlefly is very suspicious in that you always have to be suspicious when a man wants to talk about homosexuality in a very lewd and crude and sexually explicit way. Everything is butt sex, everything is cum, everything is describing it in detail. That you have to be that's very suspicious. Whenever a man does that, straight men don't want to sit around and talk about gay sex. You can always tell the difference between a straight man and a suspect man, and a straight man will call you gay once. He'll call you gay once, and then he doesn't really want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Real straight men do not want to talk about gay stuff.
But Brundle's neurotic as well. I mean, he is completely neurotic. He has to attack somebody, and it just happens to be you. I think a few days ago it was con ops for being a doctor, and now you're there. And so what did you talk about? I mean, apart from
we talked about homosexuality, and we talked about Judaism. We talked about, Aaron has a very confused and incongruous idea about Judaism, in that he says the Noahide laws are gay, and that he doesn't think that they should apply, but at the same time, he also believes that the Talmud is not necessarily perfect in its form, and it needs to be kind of dissected. But at the same time, so he wants people to be a nation. He wants the Jews to be a nation of priests, and then he wants them to be a light unto the nations, and he wants people to help the Jews kind of fulfill that role. But then he doesn't know whether or not it's okay for non-Jews to be Christian and Muslim or not. He doesn't want them to be Noahides, but he doesn't seem to have a consensus on whether people should be following Jesus as the Messiah and worshiping him as God or not. Without these Noahide laws, how are you a light unto the nations? They don't want everyone to become Jewish. The only way for that really to work is John Gischel's way, where everyone becomes Jewish. That's really the only way. Without the Talmud, without the Noahide laws, the only way you are to be a light unto the nations is for everyone to become Jewish, because they can't be Muslim and they can't be Christian.
But that's crazy, isn't it? Because, I mean, they can't... It would actually take away their identity of being God's chosen people if they said everybody become Jewish, and everybody does. And then they wouldn't be special anymore. And that would be stupid. So all I require of them is to say, Okay, maybe Islam is not up to our high standards, but at least it is closer to our standards than Christianity. And that's all I want them to say. And they'll probably be too cowardly to even say that. Because maybe of all those ancestral memories of being burnt at the stake. Maybe.
Well, I mean, without the Talmud, without the Noahide laws, the Jews really don't have any way to be a light unto the nations other than believing there should be just everyone should convert to Judaism.
But they don't even believe that. They know that. I mean, some of them actually say, "Well, we have to tell you to go away 3 times."
That Rabbi Asher, what's his name? Rabbi Asher, what's his last name?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Asher Meza? Asher Meza.
Know.
The one that, remember the video that you had where Islam is idolatry?
I'm afraid I don't remember.
The one that you posted that Islam is a Avodah Zarah. Remember the whole video you posted that it was showing how...
Was it Tova Singer? Is that who you're talking about?
No, it was Rabbi Asher Meza.
I don't remember.
It's Rabbi... well, you posted the video. That's where I got that... remember the article that I wrote? Let me send you the video that you...
Oh, yeah, please, because I actually have no memory of that.
It was a whole video on Islam being a Avodah Zarah.
Oh, the recent one?
Yeah, I'll post it in the chat and I'll post it in the Hangout.
Oh, it's a youngish rabbi, right? That one?
Yes.
Well, it's all, you can tell why he's like that. Because he's an Israeli. So, a lot of these...
No, he's not an Israeli, he's a convert. He's a convert, and his thing is to skip... He's like John Mitchell. He says skip over the Noahide laws and just become Jewish. He's very much against the Noahide laws. If you look up Rabbi Asher Meza and the Noahide laws, he's very much against them. He says that it's a scam and that you should just become a Jew.
Yeah, but most Gentiles aren't up to it. They're not even up to becoming Muslims.
Yeah, but the thing is that Judaism in this day, there's no temple, so all the really hard stuff, they're not killing people for not following the Sabbath and stuff like that.
Well,
I don't know. What is Rabbi Asher Meza doing, keeping the Sabbath, not mixing milk and cheese or milk and meat, and like, really, why is it so hard to be Jewish?
Well, because of all the restrictions that they have to be subject
to.
People
become Mormon,
people come Sabbath, it's a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal if you don't want to. If you're used to going shopping and playing sport and meeting your friends on Saturdays, that you'll suddenly find you can't do those things, and it'll just drive you crazy. So, okay, I mean, the best analogy I can give you is this. What is kosher is halal, but what is halal is not kosher because it doesn't come up to the exacting standards of Jews. So it's like, yeah, it's going to cost more if you want to be Jewish, because if you go look at the supermarket and for kosher items, it's going to cost more. So it is a financial commitment as well as a spiritual and emotional and cultural commitment. And, it's just harder to do. And there are more restrictions, and the more stuff you can't eat, there's more stuff you have to do, like all the endless Jewish festivals, Passover, Purim, lots and lots and lots that they have to keep doing. And of course, really you can't do these Jewish festivals if you don't have a woman to cook for you, like your wife or your mother, to do all these things. You need a family, you need a home to even just continue with these festivals. And of course, it's annoying for people watching you fuss over your food as a Jew or a Jewess. And people, it's like they kind of know that, that they're not going to die if they eat pork or don't keep kosher. So yeah, you're just saying, oh my God, I've got all these things that will end me up in hell if I don't do them. But if you were a Muslim, all the things that a Jew is technically going to end up in hell for, or supposed to be executed for, it's not, it's not going to happen to the Muslim. They just get it, that's why I do call it Judaism light. Islam is Judaism light, and secular Quranism is Islam light, and that's kind of how I want people to think of it, of the rigor of the restrictions. And so this crazy idea of converting everyone to Judaism, it's not something they actually want. If you ask the proper ones, it's like, of course they don't want any Tom, Dick and Harry turning up at synagogue not knowing how to behave and needing guidance and just being annoying and stupid and raw.
Well, but then how are they supposed to be a light unto the nations? Because they can't do that with everyone being Christian. A lot of them don't believe that they can't do that with everyone being Muslim.
Well, I'm saying, obviously they can, they can do it better if everyone were Muslim, because it already says that Muslims are Noahites, or quite a significant percentage of rabbis, if you ask them, would say, yeah, of course, they're Noahites. They've been considered Noahites since the year dot, according to the Jewish Virtual Library.
That video that you shared, I just sent you. I took down all the quotes from that video and I wrote them all in that blog I sent you. Rabbi Asher Meza made it very clear that, so many rabbis.
Yeah, but he's a young rabbi. He's not a big rabbi. He's basically, in rabbi terms, a nobody.
He gave all the quotes. He quoted all the rabbis who believe that Islam is idolatrous.
Yeah, because he doesn't want... he wants to dilute Islam, and he knows that on the one hand it is terrible that these Gentiles are idolatrous to this degree. That he on the other hand doesn't want these Gentiles to become Muslim, because they'll join the lot who want to exterminate these Jews. So it's all about their own survival. And so they think a great way to get out of this is to create a religion for these ex-Christians who no longer believe in the Trinity, and fulfill a religious obligation that way. Because they think they see a loophole. But of course it's never going to happen with crazy levels of anti-Semitism. No Gentile is going to submit to their Jew-administered Noahidism. It's a forlorn hope. It's probably more forlorn than secular Quranism. Okay, they might have 20,000 people, and these are just people who say, well, I can't bring myself to believe in the Trinity. I don't want to talk about it, but I hate those Muslims too, and I don't want to convert to Islam. And that's the kind of people who would come to Noahidism and have their religion administered by a rabbi.
Well, there's obviously a lot of rabbis who have considered Islam to be idolatrous. So,
yeah, I know it says in the Talmud, but the Talmud is from humans. It's not even said to be sourced by God. So you can put them on the spot and say, okay, the Torah says all these things, but the Torah, the Talmud is, sadly, for them, it's not divine. It's by Jewish sages, yes, but Jewish sages are not infallible, and Jewish sages say that they can't. Jewish sages are saying that Gentiles can't form their own religion. How can Jews enforce this? It's crazy, and they're not supposed to do that, because the borders of Israel, even the borders of Israel, have been defined in the Torah. So it can't get bigger than Greater Israel. So how are they going to make the rest of the world? not have their own religion. I mean, it's crazy. And of course, Maimonides was wrong in that regard. But they're not going to admit it. They're not. Of course, they want to do their thing. They want to promote no-hardism for Gentiles and rabbinically guide these people. But these people will end up being ostracized by both Christians and Muslims. Because nobody respects a cult. That's what it is. It's a cult. It's like, imagine if you're at a party and you meet a Muslim, you meet a Jew, you meet a Christian, you meet a Buddhist, you meet a Hindu, and you meet this no-hide person. Already the status is the lowest. It's like, oh, so you can't even you accept what the Jew says. You accept that you can't form your own religion. Islam is there for you, but you don't want to do it because you don't like Muslims. It's like they're nowhere. They'll just be a cult. So very few people would be prepared to subject themselves to being, a lowly Gentile, being supervised by Jews.
Well,
so that's not going to work. I thought Jews were clever people.
The Jews are going to use their power to push that because they know it. Even if Islam is no-high compliant, there's just too many Muslims that want to get rid of Jews.
Yeah, I know. So they have to think of another way. And why do Muslims hate Jews? It's because of American foreign policy, which they think is controlled by Jews, right? That's what everybody thinks. It's like Jews, they rule the world. They're in the right at the top of the American establishment. They're controlling neocon policy, not realizing that neoconservatism is just a polite way of saying American imperialism. It's like, okay, empire is acquired by war. Imperialism is maintained by regularly waging war, and you could interpret the Jews to be pulling the strings from behind the scenes, or you could interpret the Jews as being the servants of American imperialism. But obviously the people who hate Jews will be saying, oh, they're pulling the strings. They're telling our government to do this, that, and the other, rather than, that they're just the servants of American imperialism. And sadly, there is no rational policy in America on imperialism. They just, bomb here and bomb there at the behest of people that we don't know about, probably in the pay of the defense lobby, or what they call the defense lobby, which is the arms manufacturers, and probably the arms manufacturers pay a lot donate a lot to the different the Democrats and the Republicans, and he who pays the piper calls the tune, and the Americans are not yet ready to say, let's have a one-party state and not have to, deal with all these vulnerabilities anymore. It's like there's so much stuff that people can't say, they can't think, and all they can do is just say, well, they just want to talk about who they hate. They don't want to talk about solutions because they're afraid that somebody's going to object to their solution and call them this, that, or the other. I don't think there's anyone else proposing any solutions apart from me. I don't want to sound boastful, but I actually don't know of anyone.
Well, they are, but you don't think that their solutions are going to work. You don't think that the Jewish solution is going to work.
Yeah, that's right, and they won't argue about it because I can say, look, are you going to say Maimonides was God? Well, and of course, Duvid won't answer me this question, using his multiple truth hypotheses. Yeah, because I'm saying, is it not in theory possible for God to have given the Torah to the Jews and then a bit later given the Quran to the Gentiles? And he won't answer the question. And I think we know why. And I'm saying, of course it's possible, because in fact it's necessary if you want to make sense of the whole narrative of the Abrahamic faiths. So Christianity was necessary in the sense that, it's part of the Quran. So there were two necessary steps before, Islam was created. In the same way that three is the, 1 plus 1 are necessary steps to getting 2. You can't have 2 without 1 plus 1, and you can't have 3 without 2 plus 1. But, where people are not even talking in these terms, and I'm just saying, hypothetically, it's possible, it would fit the narrative. And it's like, well, would you mind reading the Quran? No, I'm not going to read the filthy book. Why would I? Like educated people, like OV, because he prefers to LARP. Jen, because she also prefers to LARP. And then I guess the others are just saying, well, it would be terrible if I was to be seen reading the Quran. I mean, maybe people might kill me for doing that. Which is completely backward, but, they probably don't want to be caught dead reading that book. In case they're denounced as one thing or another. Have I bored everyone to tears?
Well, no, but I mean, I don't know what, I mean, well, don't you think that, Noahidism has less aversion to it. I mean, when there's not this the curtains automatically don't go down on like 90% of the population when they hear the Noahide laws.
Yeah, because they haven't even heard of it.
Right, so doesn't that give them an advantage?
Well, no, because look, if you want people to obey anything, oh come on, it's human nature. It's like you could have sex with somebody not your spouse, or you could have sex with somebody not your spouse, and when you get the urge to do it, and it's only optional, you'll opt to have the one that gives you more fun. And this is what will happen. So people, will basically just carry on doing what they're doing. It's like, yeah, it sounds like fun. I'm going to do it. And I think I'll get away with it. I'm going to do it. So if you don't have the force, if that moral rule that you're in question, it doesn't have the rule, the force of law, people will, in practice, ignore it. And so what I'm saying is this: any moral rule will be reinforced if it becomes the law, and and so breaking the law will attract consequences. And if that law is perceived to be moral, i.e. necessary for the good of society, then more people will follow it. And if it is perceived to come from a divine source, i.e. God, then even more people will obey it, and obey it for longer. And if you have enough confidence to think that this is a law that everyone should obey for all time, then you should, pass it as law, or say it should be passed as law. And so, developing this argument, I would say, well, if you find anything at all objectionable about what I'm proposing, which is based on the Quran, then read the Quran. And these people, they can't even do it. They are so full of hate, and okay, they're not readers anyway, and basically they don't want to change their mind, because their fun is going from group to group to live chat and interact with each other, and that is their fun. They don't care about the truth. They care about their short-term, day-to-day amusement, and they're not going to sacrifice that for anything or anyone. Well, these are the people we're talking to. These are degenerates who are nihilists, and they don't care. They just don't care. Because basically, they're
not the ones that are going to make the future, though.
Pardon?
They're not the ones that are going to make a future.
No, I know, but obviously, you have to start somewhere, so you start with the lowest, because you can't get the ear of the people above you, and perhaps the only way to get their attention is to tell them, look, this will make your life better, as, the administrators, the politicians, the leaders of your society. Wouldn't you like to be better thought of? Wouldn't you like there not to be a revolution? Can't you see that your laws are upsetting everyone and nobody can see any sense in it, and they're getting frightened, they're getting angry, and you're not dealing with their concerns. You're just ignoring them and deleting their social media accounts because you can, but it won't help you. It won't help you to ignore the cries of anguish, from people who don't understand what's happening to them and think the Jews must be behind it. I think we have to talk to the political establishment, and maybe with this year they'll be emboldened, because I think Trump will do quite well. But it's a shame we have to keep waiting and waiting, and maybe when Trump feels more secure in his presidency, then more stuff will happen. But and I think the tide is turning. And I think, the early birds are the ones who declare for the other side sooner. They'll be the ones who will get more credit than the latecomers. Well, that's what I hope, anyway. And I just want to, assure you, Vincent, I am not a Puritan. I don't, it's like some people will never get married. They're probably not suited to be married, and I certainly have no intention of wanting to force them, because, being in a forced loveless marriage is, well, no fun at all. And why make people do something that they hate? But those who want to do it should have the support of society as well as the law, and those of us who want to be gay or have extramarital sex of the heterosexual kind, we should be all right if we don't sire illegitimate offspring. Isn't that fair enough? I think you can have a lot of sex within those constraints, can't you? Like, just don't get pregnant and don't get caught cottaging. It's not hard. People can still shack up with each other.
Well, you're still going to have a lot of pushback against that as well.
Oh, yeah, I know.
What
I'm proposing, I do know that what I'm proposing is a counter-revolution. And hopefully, it will be quite peaceful once people become prepared to listen to reason. There's no reason why it should even be violent at all. We just need a few people at the top saying, well, perhaps we should discuss this. And it is discussed, and the media cooperates and allows its discussion, and it's as good as done. Or maybe you think I'm being, over optimistic, but I'm saying when there's a will, there's a way, and so you need to appeal to the political classes, because unless you want to overthrow them and exterminate them, you kind of need their cooperation. And since we're not in a position to do any of those things, not that I'd want to anyway, we can only rely on friendly persuasion. And I'm basically saying that the Jews will be helpful in that they kind of know that how much they are hated, and if they don't want to be pogromed, they might as well do the right thing and say, yeah, we it does say in the Talmud that we're supposed to be promoting the no-hide laws. Sorry, we didn't do it. We haven't been doing it for centuries. Sorry, but when we tried, you did try to, you did burn us at the stake. You did conduct the Inquisition, and you did wage the Crusades, and it wasn't pretty. And I guess centuries ago we decided that we weren't going to bother anymore. And also, declaring Christians to be no-hides allowed Jews to do business with them. I guess they couldn't refuse. So they call Avodah Zarah shituf. The shituf is a kind of it's not such a bad thing. It's only shituf, and it's only the Christians, and the Christians also believe in God and they worship a Jew. So maybe it's not so bad. The kind of, I guess, rationalizing their decision to kowtow to Christians.
Well, they did that a little bit, but they also that video that you sent and all the quotes that I took down from it, they said the same thing, that the only reason Maimonides declared Islam non-idolatrous because he didn't want to be killed in Egypt, and that the and that also he wanted to be able to treat Muslims as a physician, because if under Jewish law, if he said that they were idolatrous, he wouldn't have been able to treat Muslims as a doctor, even for payment.
Yeah. So practical, political, urgent considerations to consider, and I think he called it the wrong way. So he ended, but anyway, even Jews aren't saying he was God. So from a practical standpoint, how can you say that when you are just 0.2 of the world population, how can you say that Gentiles are not allowed to have their own religion? How can you enforce it, particularly when it says in the Torah that your borders cannot extend beyond what is defined as the area of Greater Israel? So logically it makes no sense. So I guess Maimonides did make a mistake. And really, the best way of Jews no-hidizing the Gentiles is to say, well, Islam would probably be better for you because Christianity has clearly failed in the West. Well, I think it's failed everywhere because it's like nobody really believes that Christ is the co-equal of God. Or they don't even know that they're supposed to believe in it. And they can't get over it. They get really triggered when you point it out to them. And, you have to say, well, you have to look up the Wikipedia entry on the doctrine of the Trinity, and you will see that it does say that you are supposed to be thinking of the Son and the Father and the Spirit as on co-equal terms. And they only cooked up this crazy doctrine because they wanted to be better than the Jews. They wanted to have a holy prophet, and they thought they could get away with that kind of idolatry by saying, oh, but since Jesus is God, we're not being idolatrous. This is how they argue around it. And then, of course, the Muslims came along and say, no, you can't say that God has begotten a son. But we'll meet you halfway and say Jesus is the product of a virgin birth. We'll go with you. We'll meet you halfway. Which is another sign that the Quran is it is about making bargains with people. Even the way it's written, it's like actually the Quran is Zionist. And it does acknowledge Greater Israel because it talks in chapter 17, verse 104, about the children of Israel that coming to live in Israel with other peoples in a commingled crowd. It didn't say just the Jews. It's like Jews with other people. And of course, in practical terms, the area of Greater Israel would contain 100 million people in 2050 by current projections. So yeah.
Yeah, but most of those would be Muslims.
Yeah, exactly. So these Muslims are not going to subject themselves to Torah theocracy. They will only subject themselves to Sharia. And apparently Sharia is, easier to live with than a Torah theocracy. And actually, most Jews don't want it to be a Torah theocracy, or they'll find themselves stoning each other to death for, very minor things. Or things that we would consider very minor, like the breaking of the Sabbath and picking up sticks on Saturdays. as well as sodomy and bestiality.
No, but I mean, the only way they're going to get Greater Israel is by working with the United States to just bomb the fuck out of everyone over there, and then just empty the land.
Yeah, okay, it'll be a bombed out place, and it won't, I guess a lot of Israelis don't really want to do that. You're going to say nuke the place? Oh, but hey, we live there and we want, access to water supplies, and a lot of these...
I mean, they were saying that Israel is the only country where the majority of people support Donald Trump's wars in the Middle East. I think that it's very stupid. I think what they want, or the best they think that they can do, is they can use this war to just bomb out all the Middle East and basically cripple all of the governments over there. And then nobody will be able to stop 8 million people from taking all this land and expelling everyone. I think they just want to weaken the rest of the Middle East to the point that they can just grab Greater Israel, which would be emptied out of people. I mean, what do they have to get rid of? They have to get rid of everyone in Jordan and everyone in Iraq and
Saudi and Turkey and Lebanon and Syria. Yeah, that's going to happen very quickly. The only way to do it in the proper way is like, well, we're going to be we'll go with your Sharia thing, and then maybe you'll cooperate with us, and obviously the only reason why you would agree to it is because you think that we're going to run your country better than your governments are currently doing. That's the only reason why you would want to do it anyway. And we're going to be using Sharia, which is what secular Quranism is. It's a new school of Sharia. That would be the bargain.
Well, but I think that the Jews are just gonna continue being hypocrites. I mean, they don't want a Torah theocracy, but they want a Jewish state on their own terms, on secular terms, and I guess that's just what they would do when they get Greater Israel.
Well, they can't agree amongst themselves, so, at the moment, there's no big idea, it's 50-50, like America voting Trump, like Britain voting Brexit, and I guess, the current stalemate in Israel. So really, we all need a one-party state to avoid all these deadlocks in the future, and once Israel kind of says, well, can we become a theocracy without being bombed by the Americans? Can we please? Because currently we're nothing but a colonial outpost of the Americans. Because that's what they are. That's why America tolerates dual citizenship for Israelis and Americans. There was once upon a time America just didn't allow it. So, everything is in a state of flux at the moment, and I think, it won't be that long before... I think my idea is quite easy to understand. It's not hard to say one-party theocracy, and not hard to say, Sharia as Claire interprets it. Claire, who is not Muslim. Claire, who is agnostic. It's very easy to explain.
Well, I mean, I think that... Well, I mean, if they bomb out Greater Israel, and I think their plan is to just absolutely crumble all the governments over there. I mean, then why wouldn't the Muslims just accept Noahide law as defeated people?
Well, what are you going to say? We say, accept Noahide laws, or we're going to nuke you, and they say no, and they're nuked? It's like, yeah, I think the Arabs will call their bluff. It's like, well, you want our territory, you want our access to water supplies and everything? Well, nuke us and see where that will get you.
Well, they're not doing a very good job of defending themselves right now.
Look, look. Can you imagine the surprise if Netanyahu said, "Well, we're thinking of secular Quranism," and they'll go, "What?" And so it's just it's a form of Sharia, and we just want to be, we think maybe it'll be better for us Israelis to have a system of law that supports marriage and family values. We've been doing things too much the other way, and it's been a very dangerous experiment, and we think we should call an end to it now, because we can tell that a lot of people in the West are deeply unhappy and frightened and angry. Particularly as Yoram Hazony has just had his conference in Rome. Did you listen to that speech? It was about half an hour or something.
Who, Netanyahu?
No, Yoram Hazony. That's on my Facebook.
No,
profile.
I didn't listen to that.
It's quite gung ho. If you want my view, I mean, it's actually quite powerful. I mean, he says it in a mild way, but the words used are quite powerful. And I think the tide will turn, because one of our Tory MPs attended. He was a Polish-born man called Koczynski. Anyway, he went, and everybody said, "Oh, that's terrible. The far right, the anti-Semites." But the interesting thing was that the board of British Jews is headed by a woman, and of course she's Jewish, but it's like the left wing. The board of Jewish deputies are basically feminazi Jewesses, and so they didn't want this Tory MP to Michael Koczynski, I think his name was, to go and attend this conference talking about nationalism in Rome. But then Yoram Hazony is an Israeli Jew with 9 children, so he's a religious Jew as well. And he wrote a shocking book called The Virtue of Nationalism, which is a very provocative title, don't you think? And it's like, okay, you may not like them, but, you may not like these Jews, but, when they say something, people listen in spite of themselves, even though they hate them. It's like a virtue of nationalism. Wow. And they will have to read it, even though they don't like them, or don't trust him. So it's like, yeah, they've got it started, and now he's held his conference in Rome. And he does keep talking about biblical values. So you may be saying Torah values. Of course he'll be talking about Torah values. He won't be talking about New Testament values. But yeah, I think, these arguments can be made, and they can be intelligible. People can understand it. Or if they don't quite understand it, they can read the Torah, they can read the Quran, they can, just work out for themselves, what they think is wrong with the world. Or their country, at least. And of course, the whole thing about, all these wars is that America is basically doing whoever shouts at them loudest. The American government is sort of, bombing countries that the defense lobby tells them to bomb, because the defense lobby needs to, sell bombs in order to, pay its shareholders or something. And anyway, America's an empire and can bomb who it likes. And if they happen to be Muslim, then they'll be provoked. And even if they're not practicing their religion perfectly, there is a sense of grievance in the Ummah. And so, it's like, oh, those Muslims are being bombed by the Americans, and those other Muslims have been bombed by the Americans, and we're Muslim, perhaps the Americans will bomb us too. At the behest, perhaps, of the Jews. So we're going to try and prevent that. I mean, not everybody's completely stupid all the time. They will be, forming conclusions and maybe wanting to take preventative action. And I guess that's why you get all these people saying, maybe we should think of changing the kind of government we have and the political system we have. Anyway, the alt-right have been talking about religion of late, so, that seems to me to be quite hopeful. Did you just yawn? So did I. I thought that was quite funny. And we both yawned at the same time.
Are you getting tired?
Yeah, I think I am. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Vincent?
No, I think that we've covered everything for today.
Oh, good. We've been talking a good two. I mean, I'm just about to check the time. We've been talking
almost 3 hours.
Oh wow. Yeah, I guess that's why I'm feeling a little tired and hungry and thirsty. I do like our conversations. I mean, it's like I never know what I'm going to say. I have absolutely no idea how it's going to turn out, and
because I'm not I don't have, I'm not predictable in that I'm not going to blame everything on the Jews and or just be racist or whatever. Everyone else, the people who run in these circles are very predictable, and they just kind of want to drone on and on about the same things, and they bring up the same history and the same books and all that other kind of stuff. It's nothing new under the sun with them.
They need to assert their identity as anti-Semites and Islamophobes. That's why they do that. It's kind of wearing a costume or something and going on parade, and that's what they're doing, I guess. It's therapeutic, eh? Dr. Mengele, that woman, and stars and bars.
Yes, I mean it's kind of you know what to expect from them, and trolling and LARPing and
accusations. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to let you go because I have someone else that wants to talk to me.
All right.
And
well, it's good to talk. Thank you, Vincent.
Yes, sure. Okay, next time.
All right.
All
Take care. Enjoy the rest of your Valentine's Day.
I will. You too.
And,
all right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. And bye, everyone in the chat. I hope you have a lovely Valentine's Day.